Hey, this is Aliza Hava on the Boston Chris Show, and we're here talking about my new album, Into the Light, which is all about healing, empowerment, and uplifting the soul. I hope you'll check it out, and we do a deep dive into some really interesting questions. So thanks for having me, Chris.
It's time to jive. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. It's time to jive. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. Until we all lose connection.
Hi, this is Mike Aiken. This is Amy Aiken.
Thanks for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 49 of the Boston Chris podcast with yours truly, Boston Chris. And guys, we have a super inspirational guest today. Her name is Aliza Hava, and she is originally from Brooklyn, New York. And just what an inspirational young lady. We talk about her growing up in essentially New York City, the rough childhood she had. Rough is an understatement. Incredibly violent upbringing, and we talked about how that and perseverance got her through her childhood, and how music was kind of her escape. We talked about her working with the United Nations for 7 years as part of an International Day of Peace Music Committee, producing concerts all over the world, and how she got involved with that through the effect of local activism while she was in college. What a great story that was. We talk about the bravery and courage needed to be vulnerable in your songs. We chatted about so much with Aliza today. Aliza has also included 2 live performances from a recent show that she did in Romania, I think, which both of these songs are amazing, and they're both on her new record, which I have to tell you guys about. The new record will be out today as part of this episode. Today is February 28th as we release this, and February 28th is also the release date, the launch date of Into the Light by Aliza Hava. So make sure you go wherever you need to go, wherever you get your music, wherever you stream your music, to listen to all 10 tracks on that record. Incredible stuff right there. But without any further ado, guys, we're going to get into this in-depth, candid conversation with my friend Aliza Hava. Let's check it out. Hey guys, Boston Chris with the Boston Chris podcast, and I have my new buddy Aliza Hava here on the show today. This is episode number 49 already. We started this in May, and Aliza and I have a mutual friend named Cliff Doyle, who is part of her team, and essentially he's the reason why she's here, and I'm a huge fan of yours now since Cliff told me all about you and the new record coming out in February. How you been today?
I'm all right. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
So Aliza is super, super busy all over the world, and just a really cool story I can't wait to chat with you about today. But you are going to include a couple of songs, and they are your next 2 singles. One is currently out. It's called Into the Light, which is the first song we're going to include. Tell us a little bit about this song.
Okay, so Into the Light is the title track of my upcoming album. And the album, I wrote it, I was really in an interesting place in my life where I was dealing with a lot of heavy stuff from the past coming up for me. Mm-hmm. So the album as a whole is really about my healing process. Going through some really, I'm not going to curse, but like it was some heavy shit.
You can if you want.
Okay. I went through some really heavy things in my life, and, for many, many years, I just coped, I stuffed it down. I didn't really have support or the mechanisms that I needed to like deal with that stuff. So I just kind of, just kept moving forward. Right. Mm-hmm. And then in 2021, I was injured by a chiropractor actually who messed up my neck. And like, I was out for like 9 months. I couldn't do anything for 9 months. And I took that time to really look within and deal with a lot of that stuff. And thankfully, timing is everything. It was during COVID, was still, you know, things were still kind of closed, right? So the world was still semi shut down. So it gave me an opportunity to really go deep into the stuff that I needed to face and confront. And that's what gave me the inspiration for the music and to write these songs. And I usually write by myself, as a solo artist, but on this album and this particular song, Into the Light, I co-wrote it with a very dear friend of mine. His name's Alan Roy Scott, and I've known Alan for like 15 years. We worked in the same field doing concert production for like intercultural music events. And Alan is a veteran songwriter. Like, he's been writing for 40 years. He's written with a lot of greatest artists of our time. And as a friend, he and I got together and wrote a few tunes. And because I felt so close to him, I felt like I could share my experiences and my stories with him. And that's how that particular song was born.
I love how you talk about coping, and it's definitely something we're going to chat about a little bit in this interview, because there's a huge difference between coping and healing, right? And it sounds to me from reading your story that you are past the coping and more into the healing now, and I love to hear that in your story. There's a huge divide between the words victor and victim, right? And I feel like so many times there's artists on the show that choose to be the victim or choose to be the victor, and you have definitely chosen the latter, and you can tell from your music. I'm excited to share it with everybody. This first song is called Into the Light. It's Aliza Hava, episode 49. Y'all check out the song.
All right, ready to rock? Secrets. Sometimes you just can't keep them, 'cause when they're bottled up inside, they make you feel paralyzed. So I got to tell my story with all its guts and glory. There's a matter to decide, I don't wanna hide. I'm going into the light. Take a look at my sins, at all my fails and my wins. Courage ain't the absence of fear, it's the power to face it straight clear. Speaking truth will turn the tides, that's something you can't deny. In a world of snakes and lies, I will defy and go into the light.
All right, so we are back. Aliza is here for the first time ever. This is going to be a really cool story, you guys. I'm excited about it. But before we get into the deep questions, I have more of an icebreaker question first. And that is, what are your favorite drinks right now? What have you been drinking, alcoholic or not?
What a great question. So, favorite versus like necessary, right?
Right?
So, I drink a lot of water. I have this virtual background. I was telling Chris, this isn't my real living room, though I wish it was.
Yeah.
Um, I drink a lot of water, like a lot of water. Um, Not sugary drinks by any means, but I really just started drinking this mushroom tea that my neighbor recommended that I take because I have an autoimmune condition, and the mushroom tea is supposed to help with inflammation balancing, the immune system and things like that. So, mushroom tea combined with ashwagandha and eleuthero, doesn't that sound tasty?
Oh my God, the answers are so awesome to this question, by the way. I love it so much. The last couple of episodes, we had one that was into elderflower margaritas.
Oh wow, that does sound good. I like that.
Yeah, and then the one
I'm gonna
before
try
that
that.
was water with Celtic sea salt.
Oh yeah, that's great too. All these healthy people you have on
I
your show.
know, right? It's cool. Pedialyte has not been an answer yet, so that's good. That means we haven't had a really young kid or a really really old elderly person yet, right? So into the more serious stuff. So where did you grow up? It was upper northeast of the U.S., right?
Yeah. I was born in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and my family was in Brooklyn, New York. My grandparents were in Queens and Brooklyn, and then my parents decided to raise us in New Jersey in the suburbs, right over the George Washington Bridge. So pretty close to New York City, in and out of the city every week. So I feel like a city girl that grew up in the burbs. And I lived on the Lower East Side when I was 12 years old for a little while, 15. So I lived in and out of the city throughout my teenage years. And then I went to college in upstate New York. I went to SUNY New Paltz, State
Okay.
University in
Yeah.
New York and New Paltz. So yeah, that's my roots, New York, definitely. New
And
York, New
when
Jersey.
did the music start to permeate into your existence?
So that's a great question, and it actually is relevant to like one of your former guests, which I was really psyched when I saw that Mike Tramp was on your show. When I was little, I always loved to sing. I was in the school choir and stuff. But when I started to like write my own music and really, you know, develop myself as a songwriter, um, I was 9
Wow.
and I was going through a very, very difficult time at home. There was a lot of violence, there was a lot of abuse, all around, like all full spectrum. Like it was crazy, madhouse. And I saw this music video on MTV, When the Children Cry,
Hmm.
and I was little. And it was the first time that I ever felt a song speak to me. And, in hindsight, it's like, okay, some corny 80s hairband. No offense to Mike Tramp, but like it was actually the most beautiful song I'd ever heard. And it touched me in a deep way. And I decided I wanted to write songs that meant something, just like that song meant something to me. So I started writing my own songs. When I was 15, I started teaching myself how to play the guitar.
Wow.
Actually, I started teaching myself piano when I was like 12. I actually sang that song When the Children Cry in my like eighth grade talent show or something.
You have a
But
version of that out on your social media as well that I know of. Did you record the song as well?
yeah, I did a
Yeah,
cover of
I
it
thought so.
for this particular album because again, the album is about healing and the things that I went through, and so that song played such an important role in my journey to becoming a musician that I wanted to cover it.
Hmm.
I just thought it'd be meaningful.
And
So,
I told Mike directly to his face that the reason why he was so The reason why White Lion stood out so much to me as an artist in those days was because of the content, right? The subject matter was different than we were hearing as music
Yeah.
fans in those days. It was all cookie cutter, but then White Lion comes along, Mike Tramp singing about stuff that actually matters. That's what stood out to me, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Same to me. And I was like, "Oh, wow, you can write like there are songs that actually
Mm-hmm.
talk about things that matter. I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to write songs that matter." So that's what I did.
That's
They
awesome.
mattered to me, even though nobody else heard them for a really long
So
time.
was
You know what
you
I did?
talked about teaching yourself these instruments at a young age? Was that kind of your escape from kind of the reality of the situation you were living at the time?
Yeah, completely.
And
Completely. Music, I say this with all like respect for the craft. Like music saved my life. If I didn't have an outlet like that, I probably would have imploded a
yeah,
long time ago. Because
it's
the
a,
stuff I was experiencing was so intense, you know.
and did you have brothers and sisters as well?
I did, yeah, but we're not close anymore, but they all went through it too, like
Yeah.
on some level, you know.
So again, this music is so therapeutic, you know, in a lot of situations. A lot of people use it, for escape from mental health issues. We're especially with COVID and everything. I think like
Yeah.
the spotlight is on mental health a lot more recently. But man, I talked to a lot of songwriters, especially that, I talked about Victor versus Victim earlier, and a lot of songwriters that songwriting and music becomes an escape from that, and until the situation changes. And I imagine at some point in time in your life, the situation did change. It did become better. When that happened, what was music like for you then? Because a lot of times, the things that we need to get us through bad things, disappear once we're no longer in the bad thing. You know what I mean? So what did that transition look like for you?
Well, I would say that it was a long transition because it took me many, many years to finally extract myself
Yeah.
from the toxicity of my family, you know. So I was never completely out of it because I was trying to like maintain a relationship with, my family.
Right.
You only get one family, right?
Yeah.
So you try to make it work until I realized I couldn't try anymore because it wasn't ever going to be what I wanted or needed it to be, which is, just basically healthy, you
Yep.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that there was a period when I was in college where I was kind of finding myself and finding my voice. And if there's anyone who's ever been through abuse, child abuse, and the kinds of things that I experienced, you know that there's like this, there's this, there's this aspect of your experience where like it feels like nothing belongs to you. You
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
your body and your space and your mind and your heart and your soul have been violated so many times. Like you don't even know the boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so for me, what I discovered was I didn't know that I had talent. I didn't know that I had a gift. I was just doing it for fun. And nobody told me like to do it. Nobody encouraged me. But when I finally like started sharing, like, oh, I'm doing this thing, like people would say to me, wow, you're really good. Like, wow, that's
Yeah.
really good. Like you should do this you should take this seriously, you know? And for me, what that did was it gave me the confidence that like I had something unique,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas before, like I had nothing, right? I was nothing according to my family. I was nothing. So like finding that voice, finding that I had a talent, it was like a natural talent for music. I was like, wow. And then as I got better and better and better at it, and I just kept like grinding away, like wood shedding on the guitar and on
Right.
the piano and the songs, I realized, you know what? No one can take this away from me because this is inside of me. This is coming from my soul. This is a God given
Mm-hmm.
gift that I have. And no matter what any of them say, they can't take it away from me.
Right.
So that was very important.
And so, where are
Uh,
you getting that validation from? You know, those people outside your family that are kind of letting you know there is a talent there.
it started when I was like 15, 16. I had just started playing the guitar and like I was singing Indigo Girls songs. I really love the Indigo
Let's
Girls.
go. Love it.
They're so cute. And their music is deep. You know, their early albums are super deep. And I met a music manager when I was 16 and he heard me singing. He's a LA guy. And he was like, "Whoa, like that voice, like you need to be doing this professionally." When I was 16 and he gave me an opportunity to play in front of all these like music industry people. Um, so that validation was a big deal for me. You know, it gave me the sense that I could do it professionally, which I never would have considered doing ever. And to be completely honest, like even in college and as like a young adult, I was like, music professionally? No, like it makes no sense. It's completely not a practical path, you know.
So when did that change?
Um, I was studying music therapy. I had decided that I wanted to be a music therapist, a clinical music therapist. And I was getting my undergraduate degree in New Paltz. And then New York State changed the laws so that you couldn't practice music therapy without a master's degree.
Hmm.
So I said, why am I taking a 5 year? Because it was like the longest, 5 years instead of four. It was a 5 year program. Why am I going to take a 5 year program? I was already 3.5 years through the program.
So
Why am
you're
I going to
almost
do
done. Yeah, you got like 6 months left, right? Yeah.
I, well, no, I had a year and a half left. I had three
Right.
more
Okay. Yeah.
semesters,
Yeah. Yeah.
but now I won't be able to even use this degree. I'm going to have to go get a master's degree anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to transition to being a music major because I have all these music credits already, and I'll be graduating within a year, right? And then I'll go get my master's. And that was the plan. And then after college, all these unexpected things happened. And I ended up working with the United Nations and I became a producer for United Nations related peace concerts. And I became a representative for several different peace organizations. And I started to pursue pursue a different path, not necessarily being a professional singer songwriter, but being a concert producer and an artist, kind of hand in hand. And it was more of an activism path, like really believing that music can change the world, music. And
I was gonna say, man, you know, so many songwriters want to change the world, and here you are actually doing it, and man, just an inspiration. But well, how did that take shape? Like you gloss over like I just ended up with the United Nations, but I know it's more than that, right? Like how did you end up in that position?
um, well, obviously, like it's a long story,
Right.
but I was in college, I was graduating, and a friend of mine who was just a couple years younger than me, so she was like a junior, right? She had moved into the house where I was living, and she and I were talking. She was a very inspiring person, an activist. Her name's Julia Walsh. And she was saying to me, like, I can't study what I want to study at this school. I'm going to transition to a different college because they don't have a program that I want. Like, I want to do foreign relations and like peace studies and things like that. So I said, why don't you just tell them that you want to make your own major? Because you can do that. She's like, you could do that? It's like, yeah, you could do that. Just go tell the guy, go to the guidance counselor, whatever that office is, and tell them you want to design your own major. And then you get to choose the classes that you take and build your own major.
Huh.
So she did it and she stayed. She stayed in that school and we became really, close friends. And there was this one day where we were taking a walk. The place where we lived was at the end of a dead end road, and there was all these forest, woods and wetlands. Like I used to walk my dog there all the time. I knew all the trails like the back of my hand. I spent, ton of time hiking in those woods. And she and I were walking, and she said to me, there's a development company that has put in a petition to basically like tear down these woods and make this big senior housing facility. But the problem is that it's going to be so expensive that the people who live here won't even be able to afford it. So it's going to be like all these people coming up from the city, and it's just going to be terrible because they're going to destroy the woods. And I, again, had spent so much time in those woods. Like I knew it was a very sacred, special place. And I also knew there was like a lot of Native American history there in those woods. And so I said, so what can be done about it? She's like, well, there's a new election coming up for local government, and 3 seats are opening up. And I was thinking that if I was going to run for like the village board, if I had 2 other people to run with me, we could take over the board and then stop the development from happening.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was like totally politically strategizing this whole thing. And I happened to know another person who I'd gone to school with who was, he was like trying to make a career in politics, but he was a student activist. He was a Green Party guy. So I introduced them. And basically, long story short, we took over the local government within the next 5 weeks. Won by a landslide, made international news twice in 1 year. It was an epic time, and it taught me a lot about politics. That the people can make a difference through voting at the local level, but also that absolute power corrupts absolutely. So that's another part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Julia went on to work at the UN and to become part of the Young General Assembly at the UN. And she asked me to help her orchestrate a concert on Holocaust Memorial Day in the Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, right down there at UN headquarters. And so we put on this whole show. I had already been producing benefit concerts at the college for a couple of years. I'd been putting bands together to raise money for different causes. So it was very natural for me to just fall into that, helping her put on this concert at the UN. And that opened all these doors. And people just kept inviting me to come and sing and come and do this and come and do that. And then I eventually got an opportunity to represent an international peace organization and do more international work.
Which is, just looking at this story, it all started by saving the woods, right?
Yeah,
And,
totally.
yeah, I love that. I love that. Just we're gonna save the woods. We're gonna save the woods. And
Yeah.
like, if you go to Aliza's webpage, alizahava.com, and go to the About section, there's just one small paragraph on this. There's so much to unpack about this that I wanted to talk about it because there's only one small paragraph here. But it says that you were living part-time in the Middle East and you were representing United Nations peace-building initiatives. You worked with Israeli and Palestinian musicians promoting peace. And this started by saving the woods. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
love that. I love that.
that piece, there was a thread that happened before the woods that led to it, but it was all connected, It's all connected.
I
Yeah.
love that, though. So what was that like? Just, like being kind of almost like a mediator between, Palestinians and Israeli musicians.
I would say that it was less of mediation and it was more about building friendships
Yeah.
and trust. There were a lot of different projects that I was affiliated with. My official title at the time was Middle East Regional Coordinator for the Culture of Peace Initiative at the UN. And again, like my role was really just connecting with people on a human level.
Mm-hmm.
and a spiritual level. So I worked a lot with Muslims and Christians, and I'm Jewish. So, like, having conversations around the commonality between the religions was really important because religion tends to cause a lot of division and destruction when people are like extreme about it.
Yep, absolutely.
But when you approach it from a humanistic level of like God is love, right? And if we're all children of God, then we're here to like get along. And if you look at the history of like Islam and Judaism, like there were many Muslims and Jews living together harmoniously for thousands of years. So it's not like what we're experiencing now was always the case. Um, but building those bridges, right? So it's less about mediation in my case. There are people who do mediation work, and that's very important, crucial work.
Yeah.
But as an artist, and also completely untrained, like I didn't go to school for this, right? I didn't go to school for concert production. I didn't go to school for diplomacy or dialogue or anything like that. It was just about building bridges through the arts, creating common ground, creating experiences where people could feel safe to be themselves and to build trust. And those are more grassroots kinds of projects, like person to person, not so formal or official or, funded per se,
What do you think? What do you think's the biggest thing you learned from this period?
from that period of my life. I would say, it's a mixed bag, right? Because I could look at what's happening now and I could say, wow, what a waste. What a waste of time. I really didn't do much at all, did I? But then I know that's not true because I know that I was part of something that was planting seeds for peace, people who know, like in that region, there are people who like never met a Jew.
Yeah.
So they have this idea that Jewish people are these like, I'm not going to even say it because it's too much,
Hmm.
the dark thinking that has permeated this dynamic that's happening over there. And at the same time, there are people who are extreme on the Jewish side
Of
who
course.
also have extreme views, and so
And preconceived notions that have just
I
been, just completely. I mean, it's generational. It's passed down from mom to son or dad to son. It's just it's passed down, and that's usually how hate is, right? Like, hate is learned.
exactly,
It's not something we're born with. You know.
exactly. So a lot of my work was in education,
Yeah.
education and dialogue and music. And actually, when I was sharing before that I never thought that I was going to be like a professional musician. I never thought that would be like a realistic path for me. I wanted to be a teacher. That was my first, thing. I'm going to be a teacher. And then I discovered music therapy, and I was like, wait a second, that's what I want to do. I want to do music therapy because that's who I am. Like I healed myself in music. That's so I saw my peace building work as a form of music therapy also because it's so transformative. When people sing together, and in that regard, I put on a concert called Harmony in the Holy Land, and brought together Muslim, Christian, and Jewish musicians singing together in a prayer for peace that was live streamed to like 100,000 people.
Wow.
And we had a full house. We brought Palestinian kids in from the West Bank who had never met a Jewish person. And it was powerful because they were dancing together. Like there were people dancing together, like breaking those, I would call it like a spell, like a belief system of like,
Yeah.
we can't get along, or because ultimately we're cousins. I mean, that's the fact,
Yep.
right?
But it's hard to break those cultural norms, those societal expectations from a certain culture that you've grown up in. It's, once you're outside of that box, so to speak, it's so hard to try to educate somebody into believing anything different than what they've been taught. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. And that is the hardest thing. And I think that's going to be I think that's going to be the hardest thing moving forward, like in that region. I haven't lived there in more than 10 years, but like after this war, the healing that needs to
Yeah.
happen.
I think
The,
music could be a very, very crucial tool in establishing peace, because music is very neutral. It has always been neutral. Like religion is like almost like the opposite of that, right? It creates all of this bias, and yours or mine is better than yours, etc. Music's kind of the opposite of that. Like everybody can come together on good music, even if you don't understand the language that it's being delivered in. Like I love music of all languages because you can feel it. It's about feeling instead of believing. You know?
I feel you.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. So I
completely.
love I love the fact that I am talking to somebody who has, in essence, used that toolbox, that music in the toolbox, to try to bring about peace and had success with it. I love that. It's so cool to have you here. So one of the words that when I see your face and I hear your music, the word that comes to mind when I listen to you is perseverance. And I'd love to hear you talk about the obvious perseverance in your art and where you learned that from. I imagine it came from those hard times as a kid, right?
I would say so because I think that I don't know. I have this drive. I've always had this drive. You know, I want to do something meaningful. I want to do something important. And I think that having that drive helped me survive, right? Because if I was just a super passive, apathetic person, I would probably have gotten into drugs,
Hmm.
you know,
That's
or
definitely the
whatever.
easy path for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was always something pulling me forward and giving me this deeper sense of, you have a purpose in this world and it's important. I think I needed to feel like I had something to do that was important to help me survive. I mean, that's how serious it was.
Yeah.
Um, and whether or not I've done something important or do something important at this point, like I've kind of like let go of that story to some degree. But in terms of like the drive and having meaning, I think everyone can relate to that. Like if you don't have purpose or meaning in your life, what do you have? What's the point, right?
Hmm.
Unless you're like a Buddha, right? And you're like, my purpose and my meaning is just to have is to just become one with nothing,
Yeah.
and that's
Essentially. Yeah.
not completely, it's totally not my path, but that could be some people's path. Um, but I think having that drive definitely helped me stay out of trouble. When people around me were really going down a dark hole. And I don't know. And I think spiritually, I have to say that I do think that there have been angels in my life and that there has been an aspect of like feeling like God is guiding me. Um, I've always felt the presence of God in my life ever since I was very little. And I can say 10 billion% that I would not be alive right now if there were not for like moments of divine intervention that were very obviously like spirit like
Related.
intervened in a
Yeah.
situation. So I would say my perseverance comes from that, from knowing that like I have a purpose, whether or not I've achieved that, whether or not I still have yet to achieve it, or whether or not like I ever achieve it, is just like having that sense of purpose is so crucial, to continuing to just press on no matter what.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how not to do that anymore. Like giving up for me is not, it's not in my genes.
Yeah,
I don't
it's not.
know.
It's not part of your DNA. There's so much
Yeah.
you're helping me with questions just by talking, and I love that. So I have a few here, but you talked about music therapy and wanting to be a teacher, and so at some point in time you have pivoted more full time into being a musician and a songwriter and all of the things that comes with that, right? And being a songwriter at times can be a very selfish undertaking, right? A lot of times you're doing it for you. You're doing it to be vulnerable, to heal, to whatever you have to do to get through the day. That's a lot of being creative, regardless if it's songwriting or painting or whatever you have to do. It's putting yourself out there. But how much of it is also kind of a strategic thing from your side of things to teach other people and to try to heal other people through your own experiences? Is that still there in the back of your mind?
It's absolutely there. I mean, I had an old friend say something to me recently about how being an artist is a narcissistic thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I thought about it and I said, you know what? Every artist I know struggles, goes through things, and is the first to give to any cause,
Mm-hmm.
the first to show up to play for free for a benefit concert, the first to give the shirt off their back when they have nothing.
Yep.
So to say that art, I mean, yes, there are narcissistic artists, absolutely. But at the same time, the artists that I know, they're like the first to help someone in need, you
Of
know?
course. Yeah.
Because there's a sensitivity and an empathy, I think, that you have to have in order to be an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just want to, challenge that notion a bit. But yeah, it does take being self-absorbed to be able to tune into the voice inside. That's
Right.
the creative voice, right? And if we are hand in hand, like partners with the creator, then we have to be taking the time to nurture that sense of self, right? Especially when people have been through the kind of violence and abuse um, that I've experienced, where the sense of self was just completely, just
Eroded.
it was eroded. But I had a strong will, no
Yeah.
doubt. I had a strong will even as a kid, but you really can lose
Of
your
course.
sense of self when you're getting it from like every direction. So,
Especially when
you
you're
know,
being told you're not good enough all the time. Right.
yeah, yeah. Or in my case, that like I should kill myself
Right.
to like make my mother happy.
Right.
Like that's what she would tell me. Like, do us all a favor, make us all happy, and just kill yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's what she would say to me when I was like 5.
Wow.
So like those kinds of voices and things that you have to like grapple with, they're extreme. So like of course for me, I had to spend a lot of time alone. I had to spend a lot of time um journaling, talking to God in my own way. Traveling alone has actually been very healing for me. I never thought that I was going to be this solo traveler, but traveling alone has led me to some of the most magical things I've ever experienced, and healing, and unique situations that I would never have found otherwise. Because you kind of have to listen to that voice inside of you saying, "Go,
Yeah.
go
It's that
here."
self-inflection, right?
Yeah, well, it's intuition, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
my spirit is telling me, make a right,
Yep.
not a left,
Yep.
and then like, whoa, something really cool just happened, and it
Well,
would never
let
have
me put
happened
this in a
in
slightly
my life.
different. Let me put this in a slightly
Okay.
different way for you. So,
Okay.
your art can be deeply personal, right? And maybe you write a song that is, very healing for you from an experience that you grew up with, and then you have to have that kind of internal back and forth with yourself on whether to release that song. What is
Mm.
that like for you? Because I know there's always going to be songs that a songwriter keeps to themselves. So what things have to kind of tick the boxes off for you to decide to put out a song that's deeply personal like that?
So I just realized, your last question was being a teacher and helping
Right.
to heal others. So it's related to this question as well. So I never wanted to write an album about child abuse. I did not want to do it. I was completely against it. I had people in my life telling me, you need to write about what you went through. You need to tell your story.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm not going to talk about this. I don't need to make this the definition of who I am. And I don't want to put myself out there as someone who went through this, because it's like, this is not what I want to be known for. Like, I don't want to share this stuff. It's too personal. It's too painful. Nobody wants to hear about it.
Right.
That
Right.
was my attitude for a long time. And then when the neck injury happened, um, I felt like I didn't have a choice. I felt like I was forced. Like the universe was giving me so many signs saying, now you have to do this. This is your task now. And by doing it, not only will you heal yourself, but you're going to give other people the courage to heal
Mm-hmm.
through finding the strength to do this. And the music itself is going to give other people permission to share their stories. And because I was spending a lot of time healing, I was on my back a lot because I couldn't move. And I meditated. I was meditating a lot. And I was getting, when you meditate, you get messages from your higher self. And those were the messages I was getting, is like, by healing yourself, you're going to heal your lineage, and you're going to give other people permission
I love
to
this.
to heal. And that message is actually what helped me to say, okay, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do this. And I ended up taking this online songwriting course where the title of the course was very long. It was Find the Courage to Sing Your Soul's Story. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that sounds like me. And it was a 7-week course that I took while I was laying in bed. And like, and the whole process was like, teaching you some like songwriting tricks, ways to open up, techniques that I hadn't used before. So it was actually really cool to learn those techniques. It was by these two brothers, the Corin brothers, Isaac and Torald Corin. They're really beautiful duo singers. But yeah, so they were teaching this course, and the homework for the course was, by the end of the 7 weeks, you're going to write a song that is like your soul's story. And then you have to sing it in front of everybody in the course. And because I couldn't play the guitar, because this whole part of my neck was just like shot, I couldn't even turn my head or raise my arm. But I could tinkle on the piano. I could do this because I didn't have to turn my head or hold anything. So I was able to write a song about healing from abuse and learning how to find self-love, which is, I would say, a lifelong journey and process. But that song was like writing that song was like a breakthrough for me in terms of finding the words to speak to what had happened to me for the first time in my life. And that's the last song on the record. It's track 10. And it's the one that opened the floodgates for the whole record to happen. So my hope and my prayer with the album is that, yes, it was healing for me to make the record, to write the record, to work with the people that I worked with, amazing legends.
Mm-hmm.
But when people hear it, and specifically people who have been through similar stuff, because some people will identify with the stories more than others, that it gives them strength and it gives them hope. And so that they feel less alone. And a really cool and unexpected thing that happened is that when I recorded the album in phases over about a year. And when I was in the studio in LA, I did a live stream after one of our recording sessions, and there was an in-studio audience. And these two women who I'd never met before, they came up to me after the show and they said, we never heard of you before today. Like, we're a guest of so and so who said, come to this concert. And they said to me they were sisters. They were a year or two apart, and that they had also grown up in a very violent home. And they said that as I was singing, they felt, and they both had this experience that they described to me. They both felt their own trauma, pain, sadness, and grief lifting off of their body, like
Wow.
releasing. And to hear that was like, whoa, that's like powerful.
That's the ultimate
Alchemy.
validation right there.
Completely, because for me when I sing, it's like I'm transmuting the pain that's inside of me. I'm moving it out of my body, right? There's this cathartic release where, like, there's pain in there, there's grief, there's sadness, there's heavy, heavy stuff. And by singing it out of my body, there's like a somatic release that happens. Um, and they felt it. And their own energy that was resonant with that pain, it was like I was doing it for them too. There's like a shamanic aspect almost. Not that I'm a shaman, but like
Right, right.
that is the essence of like becoming a healer, is like helping people to like transmute their own pain. And again, getting back to music therapy, I mean, that's what this album has been like for me, songwriting in general, singing in general, but this album particularly, and just having that validation was huge.
I love
Really.
that because that's what I was getting at. The courage it takes to take deeply personal stuff that you've written out there, you've put it out into the world, and then you have to decide as an artist whether to share that with other people through the distribution process, making an album, going to the studio, all that entails. And then, furthermore, having to perform those songs, because then you have to promote the record, you have to market the record, you have to deliver it to audiences, because all of that is part of being successful, right? Quote unquote successful. But the courage it takes to decide, I'm going to put this deeply personal song out there, and then I'm going to relive that trauma every single time I perform this song, and still choosing to put it out there is just an incredible amount of bravery, in my opinion. And so kudos to that. I don't know how you guys do it. I truly don't. Because for me, I would feel like if I was like a full time performer, at some point in time, I would just be going through the motions, and then I'm not feeling that song anymore, and then the delivery is going to suffer. And for you guys to be able to do that is just incredibly impressive to me. Um, Especially when you choose, you're the songwriter as well. So you're choosing to do that. You're openly stabbing yourself in the chest over and over again. You know what I mean?
I do. I know exactly what you mean. And I will say this, I think every time I sing the songs, it gets less and less painful. Because what happens is the energy clears. It clears.
Well,
It
that's
starts,
the therapeutic aspect to it, right? So,
yeah. And there's an aspect of acceptance that happens too. Like there's a song on the album called The Last Goodbye, and it's a song that I wrote about my father, and who died in 2020, and that was the last time I saw anybody in my family. Um because that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. There were things that happened that were just horrible. And I wrote that song with my friend Alan. Like he dragged it out of me. We wrote it in the studio. It was the last song to be written, but it had to be written. It had to be written. I had to sing that song. It was like a closure thing for me. But I didn't want to learn how to play, because he actually wrote the piano part. I wrote the words and the melody with him, but he was sitting at the piano, so he played this beautiful piano part. And to perform it, I had to learn the piano part, but I didn't want to. It was like I had this block. Like, no, I don't want to have to play this one live. It's too much. Um, but then some time went by and I realized like, no, I have to learn how to play this song because I'm going to have to play it live,
Exactly.
whether I like it or not. And it's going to be important for me to do that because it's part of the healing process, being able to face it, And so I did eventually learn how to play it, play it. And but again, there's like this distance. There's a distance, and I think that's probably to some degree there's a coping mechanism in there, like we talked about in the very beginning. Like there's coping and there's healing. I still do a
You
lot of
have to become disassociated from it somewhat, right?
yeah, and I think I still do a lot of coping because you know life is hard.
Damn straight.
And it doesn't just stop. Like when you go through one thing and then you get through it and then you heal from it, then something else happens,
Yep.
And then it triggers this other thing from the past. And then you're like, oh no, and that's connected to that. And then it's like, did I really heal that thing? Or is it like I just healed like one layer of it and now I have to go through something else to make me realize, no, I didn't really get down to the root of it. And in the end, everybody's like, just forgive, And there are some things that I believe that are unforgivable, So I'm just doing me. You know what I mean? I'm doing the best I can with the hand I've been dealt. But I will say that I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that I can have music as a medium. And I'm definitely, a different person than I was before I made the record. In terms of healing, like a lot of layers have been healed, and I'm very grateful for that. And I just think it's a process,
Well, I love the title track, "Into the Light." I've been playing it a lot. I really love the song. The video is so well done as well. So I just wanted to give you your kudos on that. The new record is also called "Into the Light," and that'll be released on February 28th. So you guys are going to need to get a copy of that, no matter how you do it, whether it's streaming it or buying it or going to a show, whatever you got to do, make sure you get it. Stream it a lot, loop it. There's a little loop button on there, guys. It's a loop button. It's the artist's friend. Big time friend is that loop button. But we're going to take a brief break and tell you a little bit about my friend Pappy Middleton's studio down there in Palmer, and we'll be right back with Aliza right after this.
I'm putting it together right now, and I'd love to get it out that any student, I don't care how old you are or what, if your heart lies within this kind of domain of the sound, playing, any of that, I'm gonna start taking one day out of every couple of weeks and invite students in for a very small charge, and I will tell you whatever you want. Any question you got, I'll try to answer it.
Well, I will certainly put that out there. I'll make this a little ad for you, and we can share it.
Because they'll have full access to the studio, everything. I can tell them everything about how all of this started from analog into the digital world, and you'll be able to have hands-on, and I'll show you why analog sounds better than digital.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll definitely cut this out. I'll make a little ad out of it, and we can share it everywhere.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Because I'd love to do it. That's my legacy, is to leave with.
It's the pass it down, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we are back, and now it's time to have a little bit of fun with Aliza. But first, before we do, we're going to play the second live song that she has sent in for us. This is also on the record, and this one is called "The Only Way Out Is Through." And I can't wait to hear the wordplay on this song. Tell us about it.
Well, the tension of opposites, that was the inspiration behind this song, trying to get something that like there's like an inherent paradox, right? And it's just like what we were just talking about, right? It's like coping versus healing. Like there's a inherent paradox where like the past doesn't change, and sometimes the past will catch up with you in the present. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but this particular song I wrote with my friend Marla Rubenstein, who's East Coast. She lives in Connecticut. another professional songwriter. And this was an experiment. This was like the first time we wrote together. I didn't know if this song was going to go on the album or what. We just decided we're going to write together. And we wanted to explore, she had her own life experiences, she was also a family and child therapist. So she had, been a professional psychotherapist with kids who had come from, bad homes for years before we even met. So she could understand me from my psychology and my emotional perspective, but she also had her own journey that she was bringing to the table, so we could share our experiences to come up with this song. And it was really about the lyrics are about facing the pain, facing the hardship, facing the demons in order to heal them, because you can't just bypass that stuff. If it's there, it's always going to be there. The only way out is through. You have to face it. You have to walk through that proverbial fire. You have to confront whatever it was that happened and process the emotions around it. Because a lot of people stuff their emotions down. They go through something difficult and like it's like super heavy, but they just gotta like keep on going. That was me for a long time. Like just keep on.
Yep.
Suppression, yeah, which leads to depression.
Yep.
So if you don't feel, you have to feel it to heal it, right?
Yep.
So that's really the essence of what this song is about.
And I'm excited to share it with y'all, guys. It is The Only Way Out Is Through by Aliza Hava, right here on the Boston Chris podcast. Y'all check it out.
I walk through the gates of hell. It's a place I know all too well. I've been here far too long, and the fire burns strong. The world around is caving in. No one to love, just endless. And sometimes I don't know how to begin to cure myself from the pain I'm in. This is what I was born to do. I can feel it's true. Something told me, and I'm telling you, the only way out is through. These flames, they call my name, they draw me closer to the pain. All my demons, face to face, I can no longer look away. Through the fire, I must walk alone, walk away from all I haven't known, and choose the life I want to live and learn to forget. This is what I was born to do. I can feel it's true. Something told me, and I'm telling you, only way out is I can see heaven watching over me. Hey, this is what I was born to do. I can feel it's true. Something told me, and I'm telling you, the only way out is through.
we are back once again with Aliza, and we have a bunch of fun segments at the end of the show that we do with every songwriter, every artist, every single guest on the show. I always warn them ahead of time. I say check out an episode or two, and hopefully they do, because they'll know what they're getting into. But so these segments are always fun because they also go out beforehand on social media to get people interested in the full interview. So this will be fun. The first one is called Mount Rushmore. And essentially the way this works is you're going to give your Mount Rushmore of most influential artists to you personally. So imagine Mike Tramp would be one of the four. So who are the four people that were the most influential? Not just people, but it could be a full artist, like a full band or whatever, but the four most influential artists to Aliza Hava.
Top 4 would be Janis Joplin, Stevie Nicks, Sarah McLachlan, and the Indigo Girls.
Wow. Okay. Love it. Right there in the Lilith Fair era. All right, so Mount Rushmore, that was Mount Rushmore. Next one is called What the Heck? And What the Heck requires Aliza to shut her filter off. So whatever comes into your brain when I ask the question has to flow out of your mouth. All right, don't stop it. No suppression. All right, so this is going to be...
Watch out, man.
the sound you hear is click, click, click. All right, number 1, we're going to do several of these. Are you more of a hunter or a gatherer?
Gatherer.
Okay. Number 2, if you were a crayon, what color would you be and why?
I would be like, turquoise.
Why turquoise?
Because it's soothing. And it's my favorite color.
All right. Are you down for pineapple on pizza?
Hell no.
she's a New York girl. I guess that's what it is. On a scale of 1 to 10, how intolerable do you find baby pictures to be on social media?
I think they're great.
So
it depends on the baby. It depends on the baby.
So 1 to 10, how intolerable?
Wait, 1 being like not a
1,
problem.
you really don't want to see them, and 10, they're cool.
10, I think baby pictures are great.
Unless, she said unless. Well, all right.
I mean, nursing mothers, like, I love you. I don't necessarily need that in my feed. Like, I love nursing mothers. I think it's very healthy and important.
Mm-hmm.
But, some things are very private and personal, and maybe shouldn't
stop with the breastfeeding videos on TikTok, please. Could you stop that? All right, next one. If 4 out of 5 people suffer from diarrhea, does that mean 1 person enjoys it?
That's a terrible question. It means 1 person didn't eat the bad food. I don't know.
It means 1 person just doesn't have diarrhea, obviously, right? All right, last one. How long do you wait after finishing your food plate before going back for seconds?
It really depends on the situation.
And what kind of food, right?
What kind of food, the environment, if I'm like... I don't know.
Whose house you're at, right?
It depends on the situation, I think, like, if it's really yummy and it was a really small portion, then I'm going right back. But if it was a big plate and I'm kind of full, but there's a little bit left, I might, wait a little while or not go back at all.
See, the funny thing is, I'm an only child, so I never learned how to share food, like, ever.
Okay.
Like, dinner was made because I existed, right? so I didn't learn how to happily share my food until my current marriage. Like, I've been with her for 10 years, and I used to tell her all the time when I gave her food, like, off my plate, I'd be like, you guys, you don't even realize how much growth this is for me.
There you go.
Oh, man. All right, next segment is called One Artist. And so you can choose one artist in the entire world that you wish everybody knew about. Who would that one artist be?
that everybody knew about that they don't already know
Yeah,
about?
then you can't choose yourself.
Huh, that's a good question. One artist that everyone should know about. It's a good question. I don't know. I'm gonna say my buddy Rudolph Korv.
Okay.
He's such a good guy. He's a great songwriter. He's based in Eugene, Oregon. And like aside from having like this rich, soulful voice, he's just the nicest freaking guy in the world, you know? Super cool, super talented, um, generous with his time and knowledge, and works his ass off. He's a hard working mofo. And yeah, and he's moving to Nashville. You
Love
should
it.
give it a go.
So
So
I have a very selfish reason for adding that segment. Added that one in about, I don't know, 12 episodes ago or so. And I just want, I feel like learning a new artist is like Christmas morning for me. So, like, that one question I'm always the most excited to ask because I always find cool artists that way.
yeah, Rudolph with a F and Korv, Korv.
Got it. Awesome. Next one is called Wishlist, and this is going to be completely on you. A lot of these questions are designed for you to be self reflective, which I also think is very therapeutic, by the way. So this one is essentially the wish list is whatever you want to do, like whether it's a venue you've never played at that you wish you could play at, or somebody you'd like to do a song swap with, somebody you'd like to co-write with or open for, or a song you wish you had wrote, like anything like that.
Mm. I would love to collaborate with Stevie Nicks because, I mean, she's the white witch. She's like the queen, man. Stevie's like, I don't know. She's awesome.
She's still so damn relevant and talented too. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know what? She's been through hell too.
Yep.
And like, I just think she's a good role model. Even if she was like doing crazy things back in the day, um, I just I don't know. Stevie.
Love it. Okay, so next one is the segment called "Who Do You Think You Are?" Who is Aliza Hava?
In a nutshell, who is Aliza Hava? I don't know. I'm a soul warrior. I fight for souls. I fight for people's souls. Like if I see someone who's down and in a really hard place, like I will do whatever I can to help that person get out of it as long as they don't try to take me down with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when I love someone, I'm like fiercely loyal. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That is always one of the hardest things for a person to answer because you don't realize how you feel about yourself until you verbalize it. You know, like what you're willing for people to hear. I think that's a super self-inflective, you know. So 2025 has just started. You got the new record coming out on February 28th. What else is coming up for you this year?
Well, I am planning myself a tour cross country, booking it DIY.
Yikes.
So I'm in yeah, I'm in LA right now for the Grammys, and I have a few friends who are nominated, and have a album release party February 28th at the Hotel Cafe. So today, the day this is coming out, and from LA, I'm gonna head to Austin. I'm gonna be in Austin for South by Southwest and gonna do some shows there. And then I'm gonna be in New Orleans for about a month, just working on some stuff down there. And then Nashville. I'm basically booking myself a tour across
Is
country.
it just going to be one Texas state? That's Austin.
Say again?
Are you only
One
going to be in one Texas for one date?
No, I'm gonna be in Texas for 3 weeks, living in the same place, but I'm going to be hopefully playing in Houston and potentially Dallas. And I'm open. I'm open to like going places where people want to hear me play.
Nice. Well, I live about an hour from Dallas, so if you do get a Dallas show, let me know.
I shall.
Maybe we can take a picture or something together and
I'd love that.
hang out for a minute. Yeah,
We
Aliza
can
Hava,
so-
first time on the show. Where can people follow along with everything you have going on, your social media and stuff like that?
So Instagram's the best place to follow me. I'm also on Blue Sky. That's a new account. I'm not big on TikTok, but I do have an account there. At Aliza Hava Music is my name on all the places. I have a bunch of music videos on YouTube, and I've got a few new ones coming out. Actually, The Only Way Out Is Through is out today, February 28th. So you could check out that music video. And yeah, I'm on pretty much all the places.
So follow her
Give-
everywhere. It's Aliza Hava Music at Aliza Hava Music. The website is without the music. It's just alizahava.com. Those will all be in the description down below, so you guys make sure you're following along. And it's going to be very simple. Just scroll down to the description. Don't close out. Listen to the show. All of that stuff. Then you can go down there, click on there, and check it all out over there. Follow her everywhere, even on the places she doesn't do anything with. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you're running a brand, just because you're not big on TikTok right now doesn't mean you're not going to focus on that at some point. So you just never know. I'm very bad at where I funnel content to. Sometimes I'll let Instagram stay behind while TikTok is getting all the love, and then sometimes it'll be the other way around. So you just have to follow everywhere. That's what I'm saying.
That's good advice. Thank you, Chris.
No problem.
Hey, this is John Stork. Just want to let you know, thank you for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.